So a random sample is the best way to avoid bias. Okay, so when you do statistics to high level, you would understand biasness. Okay, so for now, let's look at it in a sense that it is unrepresentative of the sample. Okay, so assuming that you want to work with disability or people with disability, alright, you want to check, you want to solve their problem for them. Okay, people are not, the government is not looking after them. You want to look at how um, their daily expenses and then try to fix something for them, right? Then instead of you to take a sample of this disabled people who are having some kind of disability, you didn't do that. You went in and picked people who can actually walk well, who can see well, maybe active people, all right, and use them as your sample. That is very unrepresentative, because whatever results you get will not meet the needs of the population you were interested in. Okay, that is typically when we say you are unrepresentative. Okay, all right. So assuming you also went to it as a class, and then you want to look at average, let's say CWA or GPA, all right, and then you selected those who are intelligent. Obviously you will get a higher median, all right, or you go into a firm and then you want to look at their average salary, and then you went into the executive board, pick the samples from the executive, the head, the CEO and staff, and then found the mean salary. That's going to be way higher, all right, but that is not actually what is the mean salary of worker or workers in that firm is nowhere near that value. Okay, so that's a mistake. So a random sample is a sample where each individual member of the population has a known or non-zero chance of being selected as part of the sample. Okay, so if we are picking a sample, we are saying that everybody has some probability of being selected. That's fair. All right, that's very fair. The randomness here is not like the haphazard way you think. Here we are looking at the well-defined techniques to select the sample. We'll illustrate that. Okay, so the types of random sampling are, we have simple random sampling or simple random samples, systematic samples, stratified random samples, cluster random samples. Okay, so these are all random samples, and they look very representative of the population. Okay, but when you do higher statistics, you may find out that systematic may look more representative and may be accurate than simple random sampling, and then probably stratified will come in and stuff. So in that order. All right, so what is simple random sampling? This is a random sample. So what is it? SRS. So simple random sampling is a method of obtaining a sample from a population in which every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. Okay, equal chance of being selected. Look at this typical example. An institutional researcher is conducting a study of world campus students' attitude towards community service. So you look at the whole world, students who are on campus students, their attitude towards community service. So he takes a list of all 12,242 world campus students and uses a random number generator. Okay, random number generator. So you can do that even using your own Google. When you go to Google, so you can generate random numbers. All right, so probably you go to Google and say you want to generate random numbers. All right, probably you want to generate random numbers. Okay, Okay. So it comes. So they ask you that the minimum and then the maximum. So maybe you have 100. You are taking a sample of 100. So you number them. Okay. You number them from 0 to 100, and then so all those students you picked, you give them some identification numbers. So all those students there, you give them identification. So assuming so in our case the students were, I think, 12,242 something. So you number from 1 to 12,242. All right. So then you start generating the number. So you generate the number. So if I click generate, it says this 7,271. So for that, I'll go and pick that person who has this identity 7271 as my first sample, or my first element in the sample. I generate again. I go and pick this guy as my second element. I generate again. I pick this guy as my third element. I do it again, my fourth element, till I get all my 100 people I want them to be my sample. Okay, so you see that this is just a random number generator. It's generating. You are not affecting it. It's a probability sampling. You are not taking part. All right, you don't know what's even going on for this generation. You don't know what is even happening, but it does generate the numbers for you, and then you select these people out of this kind of numbers. This is a typical random sampling. We call it the some people say lottery method, or lottery method. Okay, it's a very nice way of taking a random sample. So assuming the community example, you want to do a random sampling. There are how many people? Let's say there are 1,000 people in the community. So that means you number everybody from 0 to 1,000. Right, from 0 to 1,000. All right, and then you want to take a sample of, let's say, 50. So when you say generate, this person 741, the person with this number will be the first element in your sample, first person to be part of the sample. All right, this will be the second person to be part until you get your 50 people. All right, and you are done sampling. That's incredible, isn't it? Okay, that's very incredible. Okay, so that is all about simple random sampling. You can do that, and it's interesting, very, very interesting. This is another example. Note, only a large sample size makes it likely that our sample is close to representative of the population. So even though you are taking a sample, but when you take a very large sample relative to the population, there's a high probability that you would depict the population. Okay, so sometimes when you are doing a survey and then there's total, maybe the whole population is 5,000, I don't think picking 10 will be better. No, 10 is small. It might not look like the population. So maybe you go and pick like something like 100, 200, 300, 400. So somebody who pick 1,000 will be close. Somebody who pick 500 will be better off than you picking 50. All right. All right. So we have stratified sampling, which is also another nice technique. All right. So stratified random sampling is a method of obtaining a sample from a population, in which the population is divided into important subgroups, and then separately simple random samples are drawn from each subgroup, which are known as what? Strata. All right. So the whole thing is that you have a bigger population. Okay, you divide them into sub-populations, so small populations, and then now you go into this population, use a simple random sampling like what I demonstrated, to pick a certain number of sample from there. So assuming you use the sample, you divided them into the population, divided them into, let's say, 10 sub-populations, isn't it? And then you want to pick 3 from this guy, this sample, 3 from this group, 3 from that group, fall from that group.